Number four, if you have to tell me how great you are, you're not.
Uh, I find this most often with experienced entrepreneurs, executives who eventually become entrepreneurs. And they always have to preface of what they've done before. They have to give me their credentials, not just personally, but if they're pitching the same thing. And you know what? It's one of the great mysteries. The more you do that, the less credibility you have. The more that you have to go on about how great you were in your past life. You know what? Because that has a half life of about 10 minutes in a new venture. Right? It's good to open a few doors, but if you start to have to tell me how great you are before I discover it, it's going to work against you.
This is something that I've actually noticed. This is human nature. This is the nervous tick. This is I've got an opportunity of a lifetime in front of me, and I really don't want to botch it up. So let me puff up like a peacock and do whatever it takes. Do you have any advice for people to say, look at these warning signs, look at these triggers. If you have said this, or if you have done this, or, my biggest thing is when I tell people when they're talking to someone else, watch their eyes. If their eyes start to glaze over a little bit, look at their feet. If their feet start to point outward, they want out. They want out of this conversation. So you have any tips on that?
Well, in this context, I will say two things. One, be honest in the sense of we get that there's marketing. But when you're pitching to investors and particularly to mentors and coaches, take away all the window dressing and the sugarcoating, all that. So I'll give you, for instance, when I see a team that says, collectively, we have 200 years of experience in this field. I sort of get it, it's true and all that, but that's an example of trying to make it seem a lot more than it is. Or there are people who have had 5 failed ventures in their past, and really each one of them was John Doe and Associates, a one-person venture. There's nothing wrong with that, but if you try to make it seem like you're a serial entrepreneur or had more traction than you did, it's only going to work against you.
Yeah. I will tell you this, one of the things that I respect about you so much, we travel in the same global entrepreneurship circles, right? And I remember when I was introducing you when we did an event together, and it was online, and I was regaling 6 ventures, all this stuff, amazing stuff, and you stopped me, and you were sure to make me point out they weren't all successful, Diana. Make sure you tell people that I had ventures, but they weren't all successful. And I just said, wow, who does that? That is novel.
I also point out another thing, but for a different reason, is that I've had 3 exits, and one of them was over $1 billion, but I never saw most of that money, right? And that was a big lesson learned. But I want to make people understand that just because someone has a big event, a big success, doesn't mean that they reap the benefits of it. A lot of times there'll be an entrepreneur, this is consistent with what we're talking about, where they'll say, oh, I was with Uber in the beginning, but they may have had no part in making them a success.
Right.
The credential is a little bit misleading, like you said, if you have to tell me how great you are.
You know what? I'd always wondered, why didn't you invite me on your private yacht? Well, now I know.